What's up, guys? I'm doing a video on my conversion from evangelical Christianity into Catholicism, what that looked like, why I did it, and why I encourage other people to do it. So, what did it look like? It was long, it was arduous, and quite often, if you are evangelical, it means you are in a family of other evangelicals, and it is a very tight knit community, a community that exerts a lot of pressure on each other for a particular standard. Um, so, what a conversion looks like, what it looks like is uh, the spiritual split of a family to some degree, and I'm just going to be perfectly open and candid about that, because that is not a pretty thing. They're very passionate topics, and the rift, the divide between Protestants and Catholics is still very, very raw, particularly if you come from an evangelical background. If you come from a Lutheran or Anglican background, um, it could be better, it could be worse. But from an evangelical background, um, I have to say that I'll speak for myself, I was incredibly ignorant of Catholicism and even traditional Protestants. Um, the idea of the Mass, of the Eucharist, of the saints. At every point where something would have served as an educational moment, instead I embraced a doctrine of ignorance. It was easier to criticize than to understand or seek out an understanding of what Catholics actually believed about something. Do they worship the Pope? Do they worship Mary? Is the rosary vain repetition of prayer? Why do they call priests Father? Did not Jesus say, don't call anybody Father? There are questions out there. I mean, there are endless questions. But if anything, I'm happy to say that Catholics really over-reason everything. And yet it's matched with an even deeper spirituality. So if you have questions, you will find volumes, tomes, actual volumes of information explaining Catholic doctrine on a particular thing that you had thought so heretical. Before you know it, all of a sudden, that heretical thing, you understand, became integral to the entire continuity of the Christian community on earth, which really was my motivation here in converting, was going back to the original Christian community on earth, that pilgrim community. There's no indication in any church document, scripture, or anywhere that we were going to be misled for 1500 years and that there would be a reformation. Absolutely not. There is simply a continuity, right? So the Eastern Orthodox share that continuity all the way back to the times of the Christ. But for reasons outside the scope of this video, I'm not going to discuss why I'm not Eastern Orthodox. But that being said, they have a very special place in relation to the Catholic Church. And you know what? Maybe I'll do a video on that sometime in the future. But anyways, back to the topic at hand. Motivations for converting. I mean, where does it begin and where does it end? Some of them are so superficial, as in the inspiring art and the beauty of the Catholic tradition. Other motivations, as I've already touched on, were historical, and other motivations were spiritual, the deep spirituality that developed from the patristic fathers and also from the European saints of the Counter-Reformation. Deep spirituality. But as an evangelical, I did not even know about this. I did not even know about the Counter-Reformation to the Reformation. I did not even know that we were a tiny sect in a sea of Christendom, lasting for 2,000 years and spreading around the world. So my ignorance was like huge, you know. My ignorance was just amazing, amazingly bad. I mean, but um, thanks be to God, you know. It's over time and through study and through the wisdom of the people who guided me and the great patience of the priest that baptized me, you know, I came to truth. Um, Chesterton, a really, really great writer that if you're evangelical, you may not have heard of, right? I certainly hadn't. He wrote that the moment you stop actively pulling away from the church is the moment that you start being drawn into it. And that was certainly the case for me, and that's certainly the case for a lot of other people. Because that's one of the funny properties of truth, right? Um, so, anyways, I've completely forgotten the outline of what I wanted to talk about here. Um, but that being said, staying on the topic of my conversion, I studied many other faiths, right? Um, Paying particular attention to the Abrahamic faiths, Judaism and Islam. Um, Islam had certain properties of attraction for me, but I found that there were too many errors in it that were just too irrefutable, and the fruit of the faith was just, you know, undeniably difficult to accept. You know, even if you could say that the theology and philosophy is different from what people are actually doing, you know, fruits bear witness. So I got rid of that. Would never consider it. Um, Judaism, you know, I have some family relation to Judaism, so it was very, very easy to think about Judaism as a possible um, spiritual expression in my life. But um, I found it dead, you know. And anyways, yeah. So, you know, through study, I came to believe that Catholicism and possibly Eastern Orthodoxy were the only answers to the question I had of what was true spirituality, you know. And why was I raised so ignorant of this, of the entire Christian community? And yeah, you know, people come to the church for different reasons, and mine was by no means, you know, lightning didn't come and strike me on the head and say, now you are baptized Ignatius, right? It was a slow moving swim across the Tiber River. But I'm happy I did it, and I want to encourage other evangelicals. If you want to be part of the Christian tradition for 2,000 years, have the courage to seek out answers. You know, the gospel is true, and the gospel has a real corresponding community on earth. It's not something that we just make up as we go along, you know. Um, Seek out a priest, you know, seek out good Catholic friends, and this will help you and you will find a home. All right. God bless.